Sarah had worked at the marketing agency for 3 years when she realized something odd. She couldn't name a single person she'd actually miss if she left tomorrow. It hit her during the Friday afternoon drinks, the ones that happened every fortnight in the kitchenette with Tim's carefully curated Spotify playlist and someone's Woolies cheese platter. Everyone was laughing at James's story about his disastrous Bunnings trip. Sarah was laughing too, but as she looked around the circle of smiling faces, she felt utterly alone. The thing was, everyone at work was lovely. When Sarah's mom had surgery last year, the team sent flowers. When she mentioned she was training for a half marathon, people asked about it every Monday. Her manager always remembered to check in. How was your weekend? With what seemed like genuine interest. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that it was all just choreography. Take her desk neighbor, Michelle. They'd sat 2 meters apart for 3 years, chatted daily about everything: Michelle's daughter's netball games, Sarah's terrible landlord, their shared hatred of the new CRM system. Yet when Michelle's marriage fell apart 6 months ago, Sarah only found out through hushed whispers in the ladies' room. Michelle never said a word to her directly, just kept arriving with the same bright "morning" and perfectly professional demeanor. Sarah had tried once to go deeper. After a particularly tough project, she'd suggested to a few colleagues they grab dinner. Not Friday drinks, but actual dinner. The responses were enthusiastic, but vague. "Yes, we should totally do that." It never happened. The invisible fence was up. She'd learn the rules quickly: share the right amount, laugh at jokes, remember people's kids' names, ask about holidays, but never, ever need anything real. Never be the person crying in the bathroom. Never admit you spent Sunday alone watching Netflix because you hadn't made proper friends since moving to Sydney 4 years ago. The worst part? Sarah knew she was just as complicit. When James mentioned his dad's dementia diagnosis in a team meeting, she'd sent a kind email, but never brought it up again. Too heavy, too real. Easier to just ask about his weekend plans. Last Tuesday, Sarah had a panic attack in the disabled toilet. Proper shaking, couldn't breathe, thought she might die. She pulled herself together, fixed her makeup, and returned to her desk. "You all right?" Michelle asked, noticing her red eyes. "Yeah, just allergies," Sarah lied. Michelle nodded sympathetically and went back to her screen. Neither of them pushed further. That was the deal. The following Monday, Sarah saw the job posting. A competitor agency, better role, similar pay. Her finger hovered over the apply button as she glanced around the office. These people had been her daily companions for 3 years. They'd celebrated her birthday with cake. They knew her coffee order. They'd probably write lovely things in a farewell card. But would any of them text her after she left? Sarah clicked apply. Because she'd finally understood what was missing. It wasn't that people were unkind. They were painfully kind. It was that somewhere along the way, Australian workplaces had perfected the art of professional pleasantness while quietly banning actual connection. They'd created spaces where everyone was welcome and no one truly belonged. Where you could spend 40 hours with people and still feel like you were performing a one-person show. Sarah didn't know if the new job would be different, but at least she'd stop pretending this polite loneliness was the same thing as friendship.